Hello and welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Robert Tan. Join us as we explore the tools and insights you need to jumpstart your financial journey. Today, we're diving deep into the economy, what's really happening with inflation, interest rates, and the peso, and what it means for you and your family's finances. Joining us is renowned economist and market strategist Jonathan Ravelas, who will help us understand the latest trends and, more importantly, how Filipinos can turn these challenges into opportunities to build wealth and secure their future. Good afternoon, Jonathan. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Robert. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Jonathan, let's start with this. Inflation recently dropped to 0.9%, the lowest in nearly 6 years. Now, what should everyday Filipinos take away from this change? And are things truly getting easier on their wallets?
Okay, inflation of 0.9% is a more benchmark. A more meaningful benchmark is how much increase do you see at your groceries, which may be between 5 to 10%. So the key strategy for Filipinos is to be able to make sure that they are able to buy what is necessary. And there's two ways of doing it. Thinking if a product is sulit or harang. Value for money, or I guess it's not that important or it's not worth it.
Now, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas has cut interest rates. How does this affect the average Filipino's loans, mortgages, and spending power?
Well, basically, as the BSP cut policy rates, you need to understand, yes, cutting interest rate will lessen their cost of interest. However, you need to understand that the idea of interest rates, particularly policy rates, with respect to inflation, is the ability of interest rate to influence your day-to-day activities. Meaning, with interest rates coming down, it's just a question of whether are you going to save your money or are you going to continue spending. So that, I think, is a very important tool to understand the tool of interest rate. It's affecting your choices.
Now, what would be a good mix in terms of savings, in terms of spending and investing?
Well, basically, I guess the key idea is to be able to at least save at least 20% of what your monthly income is. At the same time, being able to set aside an amount of money that you have to keep on investing. So you need to strike a balance of really the key word to talk about savings, investment is all about having a nice budget.
Now, going back to inflation, while it's still low, however, global uncertainties and domestic pressures remain. How can Filipinos now best prepare their finances in this environment?
Okay, it's really talking about creating first the budget. They need to understand their day-to-day activities, means they have to plan their purchases to be able to ensure that they stick to their budget. Second is having an amount of money that they regularly save and eventually have some money to keep on investing. The key word really is to keep on investing. Whether it's big or small, the key is being consistent to invest.
You mentioned the key is investing. Now, with the peso experiencing fluctuations this year, what kind of real-life implications in terms of what we were talking about, purchasing power of the average Filipino, and especially regarding imported goods?
So, well, basically, sad to say that given this uncertainty of tariff, the bias will continue to be on a weaker currency, primarily because other countries will continue to try to offset the impact of the tariff by devaluing their currency as well. So this will mean imported goods will slightly be higher. So again, it's really a matter of sticking to your budget. You have to start thinking that when you purchase something, from the grocery, you either start thinking if it's imported or buy the local substitute.
Now
So
looking at
you need to
yes.
stick to the budget.
Now, looking at what's happening globally and locally, what are your observations in terms of which sectors are currently showing strong growth potential where Filipinos might actually find jobs or business opportunities?
Okay, I think in this type of environment that we're seeing, we continue to expect the impact of uh, food sector, real estate continue to still drive uh, the investment sectors. But of course, in terms of job, we continue to see the services sector to continue to grow. At the same time, the impact of the blue collar jobs, especially when the country is undergoing infrastructure catch up.
Now, you mentioned food. With regards to staple goods like rice, it has recently dropped in price. How can the consumers now and small businesses capitalize on these kinds of movements?
Well, basically, I guess it's really trying to come up with products that would fit the budget of Filipinos. Again, whether it's going to be driven on food, on other services, or even just a common set of activities that will help the Filipino keep a budget.
Now, what would be your advice now to the average working class in terms of how can they actually budget their monthly salaries? There's in terms of spending, in terms of investing and saving. What would be the best advice you'd have for them today?
Well, basically, the key word really is to have an understanding of their finances, know what their liabilities are, meaning what they need to pay, which are the utilities. They need to set aside the money, so they have to try to, as much as possible, work within the budget, so that they are able to save as much money as they can. So meaning from their monthly salary, if they can already cut the 20% savings and work on the 80% for their utilities and other things, and then set aside maybe another 10% for investment. So it doesn't have to be big immediately. What they need to do is to start today and set aside an amount of money, whether it is 1,000 or 5,000 pesos. The key is to be able to set aside an amount which they can reinvest. Recently, the government came up with the G bonds. No? So you can buy government bonds or securities from GCash. And this is actually a good way of immediately making that investment.
Now, in your observation, Jonathan, in terms of financial literacy, are we still lagging behind? Are Filipinos educated enough in terms of financial literacy to be able to do what you were saying?
Okay, that's a very good question. You see, the Filipinos are quite challenged when it comes to financial literacy. At this point in time, most of them are really hand to mouth. But what we really need to be able to do is to let them understand that they need to have a financial plan that will eventually create an opportunity for them to save. And the first thing that they need to understand is really work on a budget. So once they have the budget, they're able to think about their BLD, breakfast, lunch, dinner, create meal plans for the family so that they're able to work to the budget, and then work on the necessary consumption of electricity, water. But again, the first thing is always set aside money, whether it's 1,000 or 5,000, that they can save money and reinvest, whether it is they buy a stock or they just put it in a time deposit. The key thing that these people need to understand is that if you don't invest, you're losing to inflation, especially when you go to the grocery. Yes, the inflation's 0.9%, but from time to time, you get to see that prices are rising between 5 to 10%.
Okay, Jonathan, we still have much to discuss. We'll take a short break now. When we return, Jonathan will share practical steps for Filipinos who can take and build their wealth despite economic challenges, including insights on remittances, digital opportunities, and essential mindset shifts. Stay with us. Welcome back to Follow the Money. Still with us is Jonathan Ravelas, Senior Advisor at Reyes Tacandong and Company. Now, Jonathan, before the break, we were talking about financial literacy. Now, for the average Filipino, where can they actually go to educate themselves in terms of financial literacy? Are there any private firms that do this for free, seminars, or government agencies where they can go?
Okay, there are a lot of websites from SEC to BDO, Unibank's financial literacy program, and even Sharefield's financial literacy program. So there are a lot of information that they can get. I think the key factor really is to be able to first realize that there's a real need for them to save. And, you know, I always have a acronym to think about where to start. And for Filipinos, it's the key word is pray. First is patience. The second is research, meaning they need to look at what products that they need to understand. So before they invest, they need to research that they understand the product. The second is adaptability. They need to understand the time frame of their investments, whether it's short term or long term, because this is where people have problems. If they're investing money they can't afford, then it becomes a problem. No, they tend to lose. And of course, why is yield? So the key factor of yield is looking at what rate is the rate of investment, and that depends on each individual. So typically, given the challenges of inflation, I'd probably say you may look at yields between 7 to 10%. And that would mean either you're investing in fixed income securities or equities for that matter. That will give you those type of yields. Now, sometimes that short-term prey ends up being a prayer because you need, okay, you need endurance. And then you need resilience, meaning you just have to keep on investing. You should, you shouldn't feel bad if you lost money because, again, patience, takes time. So that's the challenge, especially in an environment that is uncertain, like right now.
Yes,
no?
That's true. And in reality, especially those a lot of our Filipino brothers who have money problems, they really go into prayer. So it's a very good acronym that if they can really follow that, which you have said, maybe that could uplift them into the money problems that they're in today.
One thing that a lot of people, when they start thinking about financial literacy, people think that you have to do everything all at the same time, meaning I need to start saving money, I have to invest, and then I have to diversify a set of investments. You should not do that. What you need to do first is to start saving, meaning you have to start keeping a set amount of money so that it becomes a habit. Second, if you have change, if you can keep 500 pesos a day, whatever change, try to save the change. Just keep the paper bill so that you have an additional set of savings. The less money that you have, the better, so that it becomes savings.
Sometimes that's very hard. Sometimes that's very hard to do. But in your observation, what be a good percentage? You're saying again. We were talking about savings, investments, and spending. What's a good percentage? How much should you? Let's say somebody earns 10,000 pesos a month. How much should they? What percentage should they save? What percentage should they spend? And what percentage should they invest? Is that easy or hard to do?
Well, it's really a challenging, especially it will depend on the individual. You use 70% of your money for your expenses and day-to-day living. You save 20% for savings and 10% for investment. So what you need to do first is to first create an emergency fund, which is equivalent to at least 6 months worth of your salary, so that if something happens, you're not going to take out the money from your investment, but you will use this emergency money. That's
Now,
why you have to do it
yeah.
in a certain set of steps, not necessarily like a shotgun approach that I have one envelope for savings, I have one envelope for investment, then I have an envelope for emergency money. What you need to do is to be patient in growing these things. So
Now,
first is really start building the savings as a habit, but start working on your 6 month emergency cash.
Now, you mentioned, Jonathan, we have to start that habit. Now, how can the follow the money mindset now help the ordinary Filipinos, let's say, spot and seize opportunities in investing, in business or career to help them move out of that, let's say, money problems that they have?
Okay, very good question. I think the first thing is to be able to have multiple sources of income. Given the present situation today and the technology that we have, there's so many ways for people to make an additional set of income. So what people call and some people call the present economy the gig economy. You can either do some jobs on the side, maybe on a weekend to probably teach English and get 500 pesos for every hour as a, that could be an additional work. Or you can do a blog and talk about your favorite interests and earn from it. So having multiple set of income streams is actually a good start. Or at the same time, if you're not the type of person, try to learn more from the internet, gain more skills so that your potential job could, could be endless. You can have it can open to opportunities.
You
So
mentioned
that's
that's
from a
yeah.
revenue perspective.
You mentioned it's good to have multiple sources of income. But what does it say now about that in terms of our employment atmosphere here in the Philippines? That one has to go get more, do side hustles to be able to actually survive every month. What does that say?
Well, of course, our economy is challenged, and I think this is not just in the Philippines, but in other parts of the country. I think it's really trying to come up with the quality work. Again, our economy is still playing a catch up against our peers. We're still a country that is still not a high middle income. That's why a lot of people are still. We need to really improve on our education. We need to fast track a lot of infrastructure so that more manufacturing opportunities come in, so that we can have those jobs that would give us better remuneration, so that we're able to come up with better financial IQs and potential investments.
Now, let's look outside now in terms of our OFWs. Now, the OFW remittances remain a lifeline to our country. Now, how can families turn this money into a foundation for long-term wealth? A lot of OFWs do try to look for investments back home here instead of having their families spend it, but they don't really know where to look. One is real estate, but are there other sectors where they can put their money and build wealth?
Okay, that's actually a good question. One of the main problems of the OFW is really about when we talk about financial literacy, most of the time it is the OFW that actually understands the financial literacy. However, what we need to be able to do is to do a communal approach, meaning including the family, because sometimes the needs of the family overwhelms the OFW, especially when it comes to certain needs or wants. Mostly it's the wants that eventually become the burden of the OFW. So they need to be able to learn financial literacy as well. Again, when it comes to potential sources aside from real estate, there is such thing as education. That's the reason why the OFW leaves. They need to send their children to good schools so that they'll have better jobs. So the other thing that the family can do is to be able to look at a business that they can work together as a family, whether it is food related within their community or invest in agricultural land in their province, which they can look into so that it can be a sustainable source for the family.
Now, one industry that's growing now is technology. Now, looking at digital transformation, which is reshaping our economy, which emerging platforms or technologies should Filipinos, both OFWs or here locally, should explore to diversify their income?
Well, basically, I think the first thing that these digital platforms is really to understand the digital space. They need to understand about cybersecurity. They need to learn about digital marketing so that they'll be able to take advantage of this to eventually propel whatever businesses they have to be able to, piggyback on these technologies. So let me give you an example. We're helping some families in Nueva Ecija for rice farming. What we do is teach their families to be able to do digital marketing, take videos of their produce or their farming skills so that when it's harvest time, they use digital marketing to sell the produce, deliver them using a platform, and be able to give a meager income to their children, no? Thanks to digital marketing. So with this, they're able to come up with certain set of businesses so that we can take advantage of the digital platform at the same time take advantage of these technologies such as payment gateways to be able to sell products or do trading, no?
So
In
far,
the sense
what's
that they trade goods.
so far, Jonathan? What's the feedback regards to that in transferring technology into the agri sector and going directly to the farmers themselves?
Oh, it's quite a challenge because most of our farmers are anti-technology. So we need to be able to tell them that it's not just enough to plant. What we need to do is to improve productivity. We don't need to just import rice. What we need to do is to help our farmers improve productivity, and improving productivity needs education. Second, we need technology so that we know when is the right time to plant. We can use all of these satellites, which the Israelis are doing. We can take use of science so that we can use the proper fertilizer to improve productivity. This is what government should be doing to help our farmers become more productive. And this is a challenge, again, to the old farmers. And one of the things that we keep telling government is that, before you lend out to these workers or to these farmers, you need to re-educate them. Same thing with Filipinos when they are deployed. Every time they leave the country, there is a pre-departure orientation seminar so that they understand what they will encounter outside the country, how do they deal with their finances. So that is a constant education. It's not just a one size or one time learning. It's continued learning.
Yes, that's true. You have to continue learning, but still much to do. But are you optimistic that will happen?
Oh, definitely, we have to. If we want to survive and we want to be a country that is going to be a high middle class by 2050, then the next 25 years is very important. In fact, the next 3 years is the most significant because we need to be able to work on food security, improve on our education, and eventually restore the health of our youth,
Yes,
so that
definitely.
they're stunting, so that they become smarter than those that are malnourished. No? Hopefully, we'll be able to
Get to that point. Yes.
recover. Yeah.
Okay, Jonathan, now let's go to our rapid fire questions. You just have to say yes or no. You don't have to explain your answer. Let's start with this. With inflation this low, is it finally time to say yes to unlimited mango shakes every day?
No.
Since interest rates dropped, is buying extra lechon for Noche Buena a smart move?
No.
The peso is still shaky. Should investing in a Barkada fund be the next big trend?
Yes.
Is understanding the economy easier than following a teleserye plot twist?
Yes.
And finally, complete the sentence. Money is the root of all.
Evil.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan, for your invaluable insights today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It's clear that even amid economic uncertainties, understanding the landscape and following the money can open doors for all Filipinos to grow and secure their wealth. We hope this inspires you to take control of your financial future. In economics, some truths are uncomfortable but necessary. One of the most powerful comes from Nobel laureate Milton Friedman. Inflation is taxation without legislation. What this means for every Filipino is that rising prices can hit households like a tax even without new laws. With inflation dropping to 0.9%, today we'll see what this really means for your wallet, your loans, and your future. And in a complex global landscape where inflation, interest rates, and currency fluctuations shape everyday life, being economically aware means connecting the dots, from dropping inflation to interest rate cut, and from peso movements to price changes in staple goods. These factors directly affect Filipino families and businesses. I'm Robert Tan. Stay curious, stay sharp, and always follow the money.